let me remind you of the story of the King Solomon and his cabinet when he's sitting. I use that example quite a bit because in there are so many hidden guidance features for us. It's amazing. There, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that the one with the knowledge of the book said that I'll bring the throne of Sheba to you in blink of an eye. Just imagine now, Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam, he's a prophet, chosen from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And yet, he now needs somebody who can bring the throne of Bilqis towards him, and he himself evidently does not do it. Whether he was able to do it or not, whether he decided not to do it or not, whether Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using that to guide us for future, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. But just the way the facts came to us, he says, is there anyone who can bring Sheba's throne to me before she arrives here? Because he knew that she's on her way to meet them. And this man that had knowledge from the book, I can bring it before the blink of an eye. Now tell me, how do you bring a throne that is made out of metal and wood and has diamonds on it and all? It's probably huge, doesn't fit many doors. It will come out of her place, fly all over from wherever she was. I think she was in Yemen somewhere, to Sulaiman alayhi salam's cabinet in blink of an eye. How can that happen? And it did happen. When it happened, Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam said, "Hadha min fadli Rabbi." This is by grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Did not say the thank you for doing that to that man. No. He says this is by grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that man, Asif Barkhia was his name. That name is not important, but he was one of the ministers in the cabinet. There, that man obviously did not take the credit for it. Basically, Hadha min fadli Rabbi, this is by grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the point for today's talk is the power of Al-Quran and how this is a link to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Al-Quran that this man had knowledge from this book. And this book had something in here that connected that man to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All he had to do was, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I want you to bring throne of Shiva here, because that's what King Solomon wants. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did it. Not that Asif Barkhia, but Asif was connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So his wish was the same command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is what Hablullah means. When you are connected to your Creator, then your wish becomes his wish and he does things for you the way you want. I'm oversimplifying it, but this is exactly what was done, and with that example, you can understand that this is possible. Now, in this brief time that I have in the first introductory talk about Al-Quran, I will give you 6 special things about this book that I want us all to remember. Number 1, this is a book that is in the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His words, original language, unaltered. Exact words that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke to Jibreel alayhi salam, came to our beloved Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He recited them and those around him wrote it down. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala finally authenticated it after it was all complete. So that's number 1. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's original words and preserved as they were in the same language, not a translation into any other language. Second point that I want us to remember, that in its entire writing, There isn't a single conflict between one ayah to the other, one verse to the other. No. It is consistent message that authenticates every other message that is in it. No other book in existence can make that claim. No writing exists anywhere else that is, like I said in the first point, original language, that is divine. Number two, that has no contradiction within it. So that was the point number two. Third special thing about this book that we have to remember that no other book in this creation has it, is that this is for the entire humanity. Or maybe I can say it's for the entire creation. Besides humans, I'm sure others, creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, are also reciting this book, and this is pertinent to all. This is relevant to all creation, and they all are addressed in it. So that is the third very special thing about Al-Quran. Fourth is that this is relevant for all times. It was there long time ago, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed it, and then when it came down, and this is going to be forever pertinent. So this is the only book in existence that will always be relevant, was always relevant, and will always stay as relevant with its message. Fifth special thing about Al-Quran is that this cannot be somehow or the other destroyed or made to disappear. It cannot be altered also, but it will never perish. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken the guarantee that He is the one that has sent this book, and He is in charge of it, and He guarantees it will continue to stay as an active, available book for all times. Nobody can destroy it and perish it and say that Al-Quran does not exist anymore. That will never happen because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guarantees for its presence for all times. And final point, and this point many of us don't think about that much, and I want us to really ponder over it. No one, no creation has claimed that they wrote this book. Nobody said that I wrote this book. No prophet, no companion, nothing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wrote this book, and He is the only one that claims that I wrote this book and I'm the protector of it. You can talk about other things. You have the other divinely revealed books that have been translated, and there are different versions of it, and so wrote it, and so wrote it. But nobody has claimed it, not our beloved prophet. He did not say that I wrote this book or I brought this religion. No. Religion already existed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the same message for entire humanity for all the times, from Adam alayhi salam to now. But in between, different messengers had divine books that were addressed for that particular time and that particular location and that particular nation also. None of those books claim to be books for all humanity. None of them were basically supposed to be preserved in the original book, original languages, original words. Only Al-Quran has that distinction, that it's in the original word, original language, will always be there, will always be pertinent. How fortunate we are to have that message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His words. There is key to so many situations in our life